Good evening, guys, and welcome to my fourth one today, fourth show today. And don't forget, guys, if you're listening on the radio, put your messages in your left-hand column, and if you're listening on the podcast, just put them underneath, and I will be able to see them. Good evening. How are you?
Hi, I am doing so well. Thank you so much for having me.
Not a problem. Tell everybody what your name is and what you do.
My name is Belkis Clarke Mitcham. I am an empowerment expert and communication trainer and life coach. I work usually with women who would have been through some sort of emotional hurt, heartbreak, setback, or trauma. And I help them to, one, know who they are, stand in the strength of that power, discover their voice, build their self confidence, and communicate effectively. And in life coaching, we work on creating a life that you do not want to escape from.
Yeah, it says here that you work with women who are ready to rescue themselves from their past and
Mhm.
build a life that is healthy, happy, safe, and financially stable.
Yes, definitely. It's a journey because a lot of the times we work on the issues with us, or sometimes we want to get to the money making part, but the experiences we've had are the things that are holding us back, keeping us stuck. And a lot of the times we don't even recognize how they're popping up. So it's a journey. When we get to the place of, okay, I'm good with me, but I want to do something more meaningful with my life. I'm worried about my kids. I'm worried about financial stability. What can I do? I help women to formulate that idea. Or I've had women who come to me saying, I've got an idea, but I need someone to help me work through the details so that I can set it up as a business. Then, as we're working through, they realize, oh my goodness, you know what? I really need to get me in order before I can move forward with this business because it would all come crashing down. So I kind of work like that with women. You don't just leave them hanging on one end or the other, but guide them through the entire
Great,
process.
great. From a young age, um, you're saying from a young age, you knew your life's purpose. Is that right?
Well, I did not quite clearly. I wrote poems, I did spoken word, I wrote drama, but I didn't think it was my purpose. I was a little bit confused in the early stages, though I could do this thing with my eyes closed. I was already traveling as a youth, representative for my island, traveling to different places, representing them, speaking, but I never thought it was my purpose. I didn't think you could turn speaking to people into a life purpose, but it turned out it was a thing that I was great at. And it wasn't just speaking, it's that I got all this experience and knowledge and was able to take complex and complicated or hurtful experiences and lessons and break them down into simple bite-sized bits that really seemed to make an impact on others. So I had an idea, but I really wasn't embracing that because I wanted something that looked a little bit more secure and traditional.
See, you came from St. Kitts in the Caribbean,
Hmm.
and my dream is to go to the Caribbean. You know,
Hmm.
and so that would be lovely for me. But you lived in the Caribbean and you came out.
Hmm.
So what was it like just living on the Caribbean?
The Caribbean is much more beautiful than you've heard or the pictures you've seen. That's the truth. And it honestly, I can't say for me it was just a paradise. The islands are tranquil, the islands are dynamic, but no matter where you go and you have people, what you have is the little monsters in us creeping in. So, though I grew up in some of the most beautiful places in the world, that's where I lived, grew up, had my childhood, ran around barefooted, hair flowing in the wind, you still had the people in my life who came in and kind of robbed me of that that childhood innocence, and that is where for me, being in the Caribbean, created this place of conflict that over the years I had to work through. For all the great things that it was also the place where I had my most devastating experiences. So I loved the family. I loved that you had lots of cousins around and there was a big support system, so to speak. What I didn't like is that in that big support system, we didn't speak as much as we should. You didn't, the hurt came out of that same system, and then you still had to try to find how can I depend on this system to help me heal. So it was pretty traumatic coming out of childhood sexual abuse. But living in the Caribbean, actually, it is a slower pace. It is beautiful. It's relaxed. You People are concerned about each other. It can be that for sure, definitely.
Yeah. And also, what helped you through all the abuse, the sexual abuse and everything, was your faith, wasn't it?
Yes, definitely. I grew up. That's one of the things you don't really escape from in the Caribbean. You're exposed a lot to one denomination or another. And growing up, faith was a big part of our lives. We went to church every Sunday. We learned all about God and everything. And the truth is, when I felt stripped of everything. When it seemed as if I couldn't handle the pain anymore, the only thing I could hold on to was this God that I was told that loved me no matter what. And so, in desperation, I clung to my faith that what I've been told as a child was real and that He would show up for me. And honestly, he did. I held on to that faith. I couldn't, I was too scared to let go because the alternative wasn't looking very pretty. What I'd seen for people live without faith just wasn't looking too good. The people who had hurt me had stepped away from their faith. And mean, there were still people who of faith who hurt you, don't get me wrong. But it is the thing that was an anchor for me that kept me focused on what's positive, what's good, and that gave me hope when it seems like everything else was hopeless.
Yeah, yeah. And so what started off your what you're doing now then?
Oh my goodness, I run from this for years. I really, after you'd been through the abuse that I'd been through, after you'd been hurt, the last thing you want is to be in the spotlight because you feel as if everyone will see your vulnerabilities. They will see your scars. They would see that maybe you're not as worthy. And that is what I was scared of. But it turned out that no matter what I did, it was the thing that kept pulling at me. And I got to the place where I went to counseling, I had some life coaching, and then I went to a seminar. And this in this seminar, it was for persons who had been through childhood sexual abuse. I was on a quest that I must heal. There had to be something else. I knew the darkness. I wanted to know if just somewhere in life there was some light. I wanted to experience it. And I kept pursuing and pursuing. And I went to this seminar and they kept talking about purpose. And I remember it was just after that, my mom bought me a book called The Purpose Driven Life. And it was for me at that time mind blowing. And I went back to school. I did the work, and I read and I realized that what I wanted most in my life was for others who had been through similar hurt, similar heartbreak, similar trauma to know one, you're valuable. Two, you and your trauma, your experiences do not define you, and that there is something brilliant you can do with your life. I started out just wanting other young women to know that there is a life beyond pain and bad choices and hurt that's possible for you. And I realized the one skill I had was words. And I didn't know anybody who was a motivational speaker, so I had no guidance on how to start. But I realized Schools were always asking me to start. Churches were to talk. Churches were asking me to talk. Youth groups were asking. People were requesting for me to come. And then when I did my research, I realized you can actually turn that into a business. I still give a lot of my time, but I started to develop the business aspect of it. I've traveled internationally, you know, across the globe, speaking in life into the life of women, young women, and just about anyone who would listen about the awesome possibilities that lie within us beyond the bad experiences we've had.
When you were younger,
Mhm.
when did it start for you? When you were abused, was it young? Was it at a young age?
Yes, it was actually. I was about 11 years old, if my memory serves me correctly. I was about 11 years old, and I can still see that so clearly in my head the very first time, and I did not know what was happening. It's why I don't. For years I did not wear the color yellow. I didn't like yellow for many years because that night I was wearing a yellow cotton nightgown, and I was about 11 years, and I didn't know what was happening. Here I was a person that I knew as far as a father. They here, they were the authority figure for me. They were the one I looked up to, where I felt safe. I felt I could communicate with them, be open with them, and so I felt safe. So when that individual made one in the middle of the night, the first move to kiss me, I kind of withdrew and I kind of, held my head down a bit. The thing about our culture is that we are taught that adults are the final word. We are not really taught to, we were brought up to not question, to not be rude, to comply. You're supposed to, that's how you show respect to adults. So I did not know where to draw the boundaries with that. So I just literally stood stock still. And even though I was uncomfortable and tried to shift, I did not know how to find a voice to say no. At 11 years old, I did not know how to tell this adult that I trusted, no, this is wrong. And I felt like I just had to let whatever happen happen.
Right. Okay. And when this happened, who was the first one you told, or did you tell anybody?
No. My mom had three kids. We weren't rich. We were poor growing up. I mean, I remember a time we did not know where our next meal was coming from. And that's where faith came in as well, because God seemed to always provide.
Hmm.
And I did not want my mom to raise three kids on her own, because he did say if I told anyone, either he would kill himself or the family would break up. And I did not want to see my mom struggling even more. It was a struggle with two parent figures in the house as it is. I didn't want her to have to raise the three of us alone. And so with the threats, I didn't tell anyone for a number of years, but it started to impact my schoolwork. I was always a pretty good student. And it was when I was about 12 or 13, this was about a year or more plus, that I was about 13 years old, when I'm a the principal of our schools. That's the advantages of having small schools, on an island. The principal realized that my grades weren't, all of a sudden they'd gone down. So he spoke, is anything wrong? I said no. And he said, but your grades are falling. I'm going to give you the next semester to pull them up, or else we're going to have to do something. When the next semester came around and they gotten even worse, he said, come on, you got to talk to me. Let me know what's going on. And I just blurted it out. Oh my goodness, that created a hailstorm. Because he had to call in parents and my grandparents, and now the whole family is involved. And I just felt worse. I wish that I just stayed quiet. Actually, the staying quiet was killing me.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, I
So,
tried to commit. Sorry, go ahead.
so when did you get to a point when you kind of like ask for help, or have you not did, done that?
Oh, yes, I definitely, but it took me many years. By the time I was 15, I tried to commit suicide. And so then it meant help was mandatory, but I did not want to speak to anyone at that age. I just felt weird. I wanted my childhood back. So it was in my late teens into my 20s that I first sought help. I had had enough. I'd had enough of the suicidal attempts. I ended up getting married young, and he turned out to be abusive. And it was at the point where I wanted to commit suicide again that all of a sudden I realized how much I survived already and I didn't really want to die. And so I said, I'm going for help. And it wasn't that easy. I literally was shaking. When I went to my doctor and I asked for a recommendation, my entire body was shaking. You with the whole concept that it I do not know what that was, but I remember my hands were shaking, my whole body was shaking, but I had to force the words out. I said, I need a referral. I need some help. So I was about in my early, it was in my 20s when that happened. And after that, I sought more counseling, and then I was coached and I read ridiculous amounts of books and stuff like that and spoke to people and attended seminars into my, through my 20s, from my teens into my 20s. And notice how I still got married to someone who was abusive, but that's when it started. At that point, it was really a rough decision for me, but I was desperate for something other than the pain I was feeling.
Yeah, yeah. Was it difficult to leave the relationships?
Repeat that, please.
Yeah, sorry. When you were getting all the abuse, was it difficult to leave the relationships, the marriage?
Who, it was a conflict. I was being coached to see what it is I wanted, to know who I was and what I deserved. So that's basically where the whole guidance was coming along. You didn't deserve this. What it is you think you deserve? Why are you staying? But I was conflicted because some teachings in some churches said when you got married, you was married for life. And so some folks were saying this is life and death. It's okay to walk away. And then some were saying, but that's not what the Bible teaches. That is a horrible, horrible place to be. And some of them made me feel guilty for wanting to walk away. I had to still the voices. I had to fight with all that I've been taught. So through therapy, through coaching, these are the things I fought with. What I was told, the stories I was told, the things I was told that shaped my belief system, and what it is I, Belkis, wanted to believe, wanted for myself. And I had to fight through. It was like fighting through like big, thick cobwebs of beliefs and values and stories that you're taught to you get to the place that you start to see a glimmer of who you are and what would make you happy. So I was never told, unless it was by friends or family, in coaching, in therapy, I wasn't told, oh, you got to do this, but as guided, and I was fortunate to have some, I had a couple of bad therapies in terms of they just made me feel worse. But I was fortunate to have had some pretty good folks that was able to guide me and help me to stand in the strength of who I am, the value of who I am, and move forward in that.
Great, great. And now, are you happy now? Are you in a relationship that you're happy now?
Oh my goodness. Yes, I am. You see, I got to the place where I had to make a choice. Would I stay bitter or did I want to get better? And I made a choice. It was a scary choice because I felt like I was good for about 7 years. I did my own thing. I literally was on this journey to know the best me, to live the best me, to have some experiences that were true to me so that I could know who I am, develop my self confidence, my sense of value. So I went on that journey and then I met my wonderful husband who I was just scared to get close to in the first place. Because I was like, no one's this nice. No one in my past had been. I didn't think anyone could care about me that much. I didn't think outside of my mom, my parents, I didn't think anyone could love me that much. And I thought if he heard my story, he wouldn't. But
Mm,
he has been, still is, quite the champion. He saw immediately this didn't, it wasn't who you are. He said, you did nothing wrong. Someone did something to you. And he became part of my healing journey. He was a friend first. And then eventually we realized that, how much we really liked each other. And the relationship went from acquaintances to friendship to courtship. And then we decided to get married. He truly is at times that yin to my yang, and he helps to bring out the beauty in me and supports me in the most amazing ways.
great. Talk to me about your business now. So, what do you offer if somebody wants to come to you and
Mhm.
say, right, okay, what do you offer? What can you do?
I I am a speaker first and foremost by nature. So I go into organizations and I speak to them, whether it is to some of their soft skills, to dealing with the human in the team, how they can relate to each other, how they can deal with some of their issues. So I do some of those trainings. I do a lot of empowerment and a communication trainings. But when it comes to one on one, I have courses that I offer online and I coach. But I don't just coach everybody who comes because the truth is, not everybody is ready to let go of where they've been. And I say this honestly, there are two types of coaching. Either you want to get to the place where you're ready to let it all go and rediscover, or it is that I have let go and I just feel as if I need this help now to propel me forward. So there are two dimensions to the coaching that I offer. So I offer courses, I coach, and I do empowerment and communication training as well for individuals because I believe in giving people a voice no matter
Right,
what.
great. And that's for women, yeah?
Yes, it is. Now I've had a few guys who kind of went like insisted that they wanted to work with me, but I usually work with women and sometimes youth dependent. It depends. I talk a lot to youths and I work with women.
Well done. And if anybody wants to contact you, how do they contact you?
There's my website, www.belkisclarke.com, www.belkisclarke.com. There's a contact me form. The moment they get onto my website, they can always drop me an email. I always respond within 24 to 48 hours for searching.
Brilliant. Thank you very much for joining me tonight, and I'm very grateful and very nice person. And thank you for everything, and thank you for coming on.
Thank you so much for having me and having me share with your audience. And I just want people to know there is awesome in you, and you can live a life that you don't want to escape from. It's just dynamic.
Brilliant. Thank you so much. Thank you for that.
You're welcome.
Thank you.